welcome to episode, is it 8 of the Hitman Hideout podcast. Yeah, a very special guest today. You may know them as the composer of the newest trilogy of Hitman games, Niels Bye Nielsen. So, yes, welcome to the podcast, Niels.
Thank you.
Yeah, very special guest. Hasn't done many interviews that we've found, so should be quite interesting. Yeah. I know quite a few people are a big fan of your work, so.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say just off the bat, like the trilogy wouldn't. I feel soundtrack's very important to any medium of entertainment, and I think it is an integral component of what makes art. And I think you can consider the Hitman trilogy as an art form, and I think the soundtrack's like the backbone of setting the mood and the tone and the very feel, the very essence, the very soul of the art piece. So I think your work has been probably one of the most important aspects of the entire package. So very huge honor to have you on. Yeah. So thanks for agreeing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll just kick it off. I'm just interested to see, have you played Hitman at all before you worked on this trilogy? Have you played many games before even, or?
Oh yeah. No, I'm a big gamer. Back when I was never a PC gamer, so I missed out on the whole beginning of it. I had a Commodore 64 and a Spectrum back in the olden days. I'm that old. And when I got the first Xbox, when Microsoft put that out, I bought Hitman 2, which I was really taken with. And I remember Jesper Kuh's music. I would just leave the menu playing in the background because that was cool shit. That was unlike anything I had heard in previous games that I had played, Halo and so on and so forth. And I moved up, and right now I've got an Xbox. I haven't gotten the new Xbox or the new PlayStation because I'm in Los Angeles. You just can't get the damn.
They're hard to get, yeah.
Yeah, you can't get them. You can't get them here either.
No.
Unless on
all right.
PS5.
So I'm on the previous generations of the Microsoft and the Sony platforms. That's where I'm currently at. And I just played the Division 2, so I'm a little behind. But still, great game. Cool music, by the way. The Swedes did a good job.
When you play a game, how important is the music to you when you're playing it? Is it that's some of the first things you think of, or?
Well, due to the fact that I work in the media, it's impossible to not listen and analyze, and sometimes it's even distracting. Not because the music itself is distracting, because you're like, wait, what the fuck was that? What's that? And then I go in. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah. Fine, yeah.
Okay, all right. Sorry.
we had a crazy Scotsman on here a couple of months ago. So swear away.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I'll literally go in and I'll turn off the sound effects and I'll play it to just listen to the music. And I did that on Division 2 because there was some really cool stuff.
Wow.
So absolutely.
Awesome. So you've been playing games for quite a while then, yeah. Especially Hitman, it sounds like you played number 2, so yeah, that's great.
Yeah, since I was 12 or whenever I got this ZX Spectrum. Yeah.
And being Danish, I'm sure the earlier Hitman games were quite popular in Denmark, I'm assuming.
Sure they were. I moved here in '94.
Oh wow, okay.
So I missed being in Denmark as Hitman really gained popularity. So I wasn't marked or affected by that. I was here playing guitar.
Okay.
Which is why I moved here and eventually started composing for various other things. So
yeah, wow.
So I guess the first time I actually played Hitman was when the first Xbox came out and I bought it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the very first Xbox. Yeah. So would that have been Blood Money, maybe? Oh no, all the original games.
No, Hitman 2.
Oh, Hitman 2, Silent Assassin.
Hitman 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Hitman 2 was the first console Hitman game. Yeah.
Not to be confused with the most recent Hitman 2.
No.
Yeah, I guess it's Season 2. Originally it was Seasons, right? And then that kind of changed because it was no longer released. Yeah, exactly, because they were no longer released episodically, which I actually thought was kind of a cool idea. To do.
You both loved it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was such an original. Well, not completely original, but it was quite a revolutionary format of releasing. Like the episodic release model was quite revolutionary back then for
Agreed.
video games.
So did you enjoy that as gamers? Did you enjoy it being released episodically?
Yeah, really, because it really brought us together as a community and built a lot of hype with each episode, you know, and it was almost like following a TV series or something.
Yeah, exactly. I played since Paris, and I got it on release day instead of playing it, and it's still the game I know the most about because I spent so much time in each location, and it really it felt like 6 game releases. Like you really built the hype up each month. Yeah, it was so much fun. I love that.
And it was brilliant from a PR perspective because you stayed current. Because you were constantly reviewed. You know, they reviewed each individual level as they came out. So it's like a half a year of interest. Whereas now you put out the game, you know, a month later, nobody's talking about Hitman anymore.
Yeah,
exactly. There are a million other games you've moved on to.
Yeah, that's so true. It keeps it relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So I looked you up on IMDb, and I can see that you have a career spanning 20 years. Mostly in TV.
It's true.
So how did you first start out composing, and was it a challenge breaking into composing for the entertainment industry?
I started pretty early on, 14, something like that. My parents were really supportive. They were kind enough to get me a synthesizer fairly early on that had like a basic sequencer in it.
Oh, that's cool.
And even on the Commodore 64 before that, there was some like really basic, but for the time, I guess, rather revolutionary and advanced composition tools, basic samples of various kinds. So I immediately jumped on that bandwagon and enjoyed that immensely. And then eventually I watched Crossroads and saw Steve Vai play guitar. I was like, that's what I got to do. So I started playing guitar, and I did nothing but play guitar for 5 years. I literally dropped out of college to play guitar. Just did that. And then in 94, I'd saved enough money to go to the States to attend something called GIT in Hollywood. It's called Guitar Institute of Technology. The overall package was called MIT, Musicians Institute of Technology. They eventually got sued by Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Of course, yeah.
So now they're just MI these days, but regardless. And then things just happened. I was not in charge of that train. I did not drive. People just put me in motion and would ask me, hey, would you like to try and do this? And I would go, yes, I would like to try and do whatever you just asked me to do. I would do it. I would succeed, I guess, to a certain extent. And somebody else would ask me if I would want to do something else. And I would go, yes, I would also like to try that. That's literally it. And then to answer your question about gaming, no, it was incredibly easy because somebody else asked me if I would like to partake in making music for a video game. I said, yeah, I would like to partake in that. And that was a really dear friend of mine. We've done a billion things together. His name is David Berchot, brilliant composer, Frenchman, lives here in Los Angeles also. And he got the first Ratchet and Clank game.
Yeah, I saw you'd worked on that. Yeah, wow. So he put you onto that to help him out with some composition, did he?
Yeah, exactly. And I did. Right. I guess I shouldn't actually say that, should I? I did a few where I did some ghostwriting. But then eventually we were doing, I mean, it was such a collaboration that he was kind enough to say, let's just put him on there. Why not? And then we did quite a few. It was a PSP game also, Secret Agent Clank. I don't know.
Oh, I played that so much as a kid. Wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Love that game. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. As a kid. Wait, how old are you guys?
I'm 24, so I played as like 12 or 13. I'm not sure when it came out. I got it on the day it came out.
Yeah,
I fondly remember
I'm 30,
the dance.
but I remember them. Yeah.
Like there's this dancing ballroom sort of scene, and I remember that music.
Oh yeah,
for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. No, that was I wrote that. That was my
my
secret agent tango.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Oh, cool.
That's pretty awesome. I like the fact that you can still remember pieces that you've written even after all this time. Because obviously you must have, over a 20-year career, you'd have a lot of music that you've written, and it must be hard to...
Weeks of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, there's certain things that'll leave a mark, either because it's the first thing you did something, or
true.
My career has really just been marked by variety.
Yeah.
It's just within, like, take a game like Hitman 3, for instance. I mean, I did German Underground Techno. I wrote 3 tangos. I did my best version of John Williams, and then I did some cyberpunk shit. I mean, it's
that's cool,
you kind of kind of get around.
Yeah, and that's just in one project, right?
Yeah, that's just a Hitman game.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So it's the same thing with. I mean, I hadn't written a Secret Agent Tango before I wrote that one, so I remember that. I also did this Britney Spears ripoff, Courtney Gears for one of the Ratchet and Clanks. She was this intergalactic robots pop idol, so I had to do like a Britney Spears sound-alike song. So that I remember too. And actually, somebody sent me a link to a YouTube video where some dude covers it on guitar really well. It's awesome.
That's great. Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. It's good stuff.
Have you had any like favorite composers that you've sort of looked up to or been inspired by as you've in your last 20 years in the industry? Or any specific composer where you're like this guy or this?
Great, absolutely. Yeah. I can listen to Danny Elfman any day. Yeah. John Williams, same thing. Danny Elfman actually is the reason I got into film scoring. A friend of mine forced me to watch Edward Scissorhands.
Oh.
And that music is just, I mean, it's iconic and classic and gorgeous and all that stuff. That was the first time I'd heard anything like it, and I immediately ran out and bought every soundtrack at that point released by Danny Elfman. But John Williams, I bought every single score he has. I like plow through them to study his orchestrations and stuff like that. But all the classics in terms of orchestral worlds, Bartok and Stravinsky and all these.
Do you think more classically when you're composing, like more old school a bit? Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I sort of. I think that's where my heart is. But because the guitar is such a big part of my life, also Steve Vai.
Yeah, of course.
Just a brilliant guitar player, composer, all around, and you know, I came from the shredder area. I can sweep pick and tap and all this shit. But he was just on top of that. He was also musical. I mean, Yngwie, by all means, give me Yngwie. But there's not a lot of variety in Yngwie. What he does really well, and it was unique and it was brilliant. But Steve is a different cat. Learned a lot from that. But my God, the world is just packed with brilliant composers. Yeah. And thank God, because of technology now, you can find them on YouTube and listen to just dude play the oud somewhere in Egypt.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is just wonderful.
It's at your fingertips. You don't have to go to a CD shop or a record store and try and track it all down.
Spotify.
Yeah, it's crazy. So moving back to Hitman, like, how did you initially land the job working on Hitman, and did you sign on for all three games at once, or did they initially just sign you on for Hitman 1 and then kind of left the...
Sorry, I interrupted. Yes, I just signed up for Hitman 1. And just to harken back to the original idea of me not really making any decisions in life, people just asking me to do shit and I say yes. Kind of the same thing as weird coincidences. I was doing Ratchet and Clank with my friend David Bishop, and my girlfriend, who lives in Denmark, which is another story, she had gone to college or university actually with a friend who was working currently at IO, was developing a project called Build, Play, Share, which eventually was called Game Globe, which was an in-browser build your own cool game and share it with a link kind of thing, kind of a brilliant thing. And he was looking for music akin to Ratchet and Clank. Lo and behold, they were having dinner. Funny thing you should ask. I get a phone call. Would you like to try and do this? Yes, I would like to try and do that. So I did some music for Game Globe, actually a shitload of music for Game Globe. And when time came for Hitman, which happened to be the same company IO, I was put on a list to do a demo for it. So I don't know how many composers did demos, but we were some composers did demos. We were given a few tasks to accomplish. Sent them in, and I got the gig. That was it. I signed a contract.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. That's so cool. So you didn't... Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how an opportunity like that can just kind of present itself.
Very true.
Depending on who you know.
Yeah. And again, just strange happenstance. And I remember once, I went to a lecture by another brilliant film composer called Alan Silvestri, which I'm sure most people are familiar with. Yes, Back to the Future and all this good stuff. And he said, on the list of the 10 most important things you need to know as a composer, composing is not one of them. And it is so true. It is not.
Wow.
And being lucky is definitely number one, because that's it, man. At the end of the day, it's luck and preparation, right? So by all means, be a good composer, but just meet as many people as you can, and then cross your fingers and hope.
Yeah, I remember the story of how David Bateson became the voice of Agent 47. It's quite a similar kind of scenario where he just happened to be at a recording studio the day they were doing some auditions for the original game, and he just happened to. They said, "Oh, so you're a voice actor? All right, yeah, come in, give us a demo," and just like created this whole career for him. Yeah,
20-year voice.
Yeah. So, and it sounds like your experience was kind of similar in that respect. Kind of just fell into place. Yeah.
Tons of people have similar stories. I'm certain of it.
Yeah. Have you actually met David? Have you ever?
No, I haven't. I think. No, I'm mainly in Los Angeles.
Yeah, of course.
I do go to Denmark, and I do stop by. Of course, I do. And I think they record that in London. I think they work with a studio or somewhere in Great Britain.
Oh, okay.
But I believe he was there once, and I believe I was there at the same time. But no, I didn't say hi. Same thing with Diana. I believe I brushed by her in the hallways at one point. So.
Yeah. Jane is lovely as well. Yeah, both. All the cast that worked on the Hitman games are really nice.
So I was going to ask about this. Just for Kids musical work on the early Hitman games is extremely highly regarded among fans, as I'm sure you know, as a fan yourself. But now we also see that you've created an incredible body of work, which, well, I think is a worthy successor to Kids' early works as well. Did you? Obviously, you've heard this music before, but did you listen to that while for inspiration or anything while you were working on Hitman 1? Or were you just let's go from a different angle?
Yeah, I very specifically didn't. I did not listen to. It's funny, Kit. That's hilarious. I was confused there for a moment. His name in Danish is pronounced Kid.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Right. So
just
the kids, Billy the Kid. What kid are we talking about here?
I bet I couldn't pronounce anyone at IO's names properly.
Yeah. Clemens is not pronounced Clemens. It's actually.
It's pretty close. Clemens. Yeah, it's fairly close. Okay, so now I know what you were talking about here. Perfect. No, I didn't. I specifically didn't. I was given a brief. And by the way, I'd done a ton of stuff in the world of video games, but usually with David. And it's a different thing to all of a sudden stand on your own with this franchise with big shoes to fill and so on and so forth. So I was nervous.
Oh yeah.
And I was given a brief that was basically, here's a bunch of stuff we don't want. So what can we do that's not this, but that is slightly more James Bondy? But it can never be really dangerous. It can never be dark. It always has to be somewhat playful. It can be exciting, but it can't be dark. This is not a dark Hitman. It's not Absolution. It's all bright colors. You go to Sapienza, very pretty, very colorful, and so on and so forth. So that was the intention with the first Hitman. And then when I started working on it, I started realizing that they had not fully developed the music system that would play back the music interactively. So that was being developed, and I was trying to put in my 2 cents. And what we came up with was something that was way too complicated for its own good. It was just a nightmare. So on top of being nervous to begin with, all of a sudden I had this beast I had to feed.
Oh man,
it was just difficult and nerve-wracking.
Yeah,
I have to say.
Yeah.
But when it works, it really works, and when it doesn't, it just falls flat. But
I'll ask more about that actually. How much input did you have on that system? Like, obviously, you wouldn't have programmed the system yourself, but how closely did you work with it? Did you sort of go back and forth with the audio directors, or? Yeah,
there was a audio director for the first game. His name was Frank, but he was sort of He was in his 60s and about ready to retire, so he was unloading the burden onto Jonas Breum Jensen. Breum, try that one for size. We'll just keep it at Jonas, who was the audio lead on both Hitman 2 and 3. And he was the one who built this music system. So we had some back and forth, but it was mainly, again, because I was new kid on the block, so I wasn't gonna dictate too much. But I had some input, and then it was implemented. But again, you get all excited, and you built this thing, and then you realize, oh shit, I have to sit down and write music that can accommodate this stuff.
How different is that?
It's incredibly different.
Yeah,
no, it really is. It's so difficult, man. And still today, I'm starting to get more comfortable with it, but I'm still not comfortable with it. So basically, for those who don't know, it is in Hitman 1, it is about 2 minutes and 30 seconds loop that consists of the same piece of music written 4 times in different intensities. And the idea is that when it crossfades from one to the other, it shouldn't be noticeable. It should literally just feel like the orchestra and the music is playing louder and more intensely, and the same as you go back down. So that's one. Sorry.
Well, it's like a seamless transition, isn't it?
And I think when it really works, it works. It feels like the music is like dancing along to what you're doing, and somebody's aware if a guard has noticed you, or your disguise has been compromised. The music starts crescendoing. It's the same piece of music. It's the same melody or the same ostinato, whatever going on, but it's building. Horns come in and shit.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that's so impressive. The fact because the music's being dictated by what the player chooses to do. So it's almost like you've composed the music as 4 separate tracks, but it's like a living beast of its own, depending on what what the player does, which is amazing.
That was Oh, thank you. Yeah, and when it works, it really works well. The thing is, though, it's Hitman, and Hitman is unlike 95% of the other games on the market. You throw people into this sandbox of, a limited space, but still it's a sandbox, and you can literally do whatever you want at any given time. You arrive in Dubai, you go up the stairs and you start shooting people, or you don't, right? But the music has to constantly be able to comment on what you're doing. And since it's not super intelligent AI that governs all this stuff, it's still fairly basic. So you can easily trick the system into thinking that you should escalate the music. One thing I think that was in Hitman 2, if you pull out your gun, you would escalate the music. So if you pull out your gun and put away your gun, pull out your gun, put away your gun, even though you're standing in a room all by yourself, the music will now be playing at its loudest volume, going, holy shit, something is starting. You're just hanging out by the dumpster, with your gun and your... It's silly. So if you play Hitman the way I think Hitman is intended to play, if you're the kind of guy or gal who goes for silent assassin, where you're actually trying to live the fantasy, then the music system works really well. The moment, and that's probably at least 60% of the people or more that play Hitman, it's just fun to hang around and break shit. Then the whole thing just falls apart.
So when you're writing music for the different maps, do IO give you much free reign when it comes to the actual composition itself, or do they send you concept art to help inspire you, or do they have a lot more dictation as to what happens? Do you have to send demos back and forth constantly to?
No, they've either have been incredibly lucky. No, they're really easygoing, wonderful folk. They really are. And I work closely with on Hitman 3. I work very closely with Jonas, the audio lead, who's sort of the audio lead, a sound designer, and the music director. Dude's got his plate full. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's crazy. So we'll start like Dartmoor. Here's Dartmoor. So you sit down, you look at the level, you sort of discuss what's appropriate for this. And one thing we made a conscious decision to do is to very, very much comment on the environment. as opposed to just comment on 47. Because literally, it doesn't matter if he's in Dubai or in England. 47 is kind of doing the same thing. You know, got a couple of targets to whack and then get the hell out of there. I don't really care that I'm in some exotic locale. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm a clone who has no feelings. You know, so I really don't care. So going back, for instance, to Dartmoor. Dartmoor was such a departure because it's a murder mystery. You know, it's really different. It's set in this sort of Agatha Christie scenario. So we figured, why not? We'll play along with that. You know, there's even like some rooms where you go in, we're just going to go Bernard Herrmann all the way, like an old school score, like you'd hear from the 40s, all orchestral.
Yeah.
So that's something that's then discussed. It's also discussed with the level leads and of course the game director Matthias. Like, is this something you guys would want to play along with? And everybody always seems to be, yeah, why not? So then you start. And then, of course, there's a process of me sending demos and revisions. Have we gone too far here? Is this chord too old school? Can we not get away with this many, minor, major, sevenths, and so on and so forth? And then eventually I do a sketch of something that portrays the various intensity levels. So it's not intended to really be used in the game because it couldn't, because it's actually a piece of music. So I will send that and he will go, yeah, this is great. Maybe here at 1 minute 25, let's not do that. Okay, fine. I'm good with that. We'll scrap that. And once we've decided, that's it. And then another thing that happened in Hitman 2 and 3, which did not happen in Hitman 1, unfortunately, was the idea of creating public spaces where there is no score music, and then 3 different locations that have 3 different score music. Whereas in Hitman 1, it's one piece of music that covers the entire level, which in hindsight is a terrible idea. Because the longevity of something like that is just not, it doesn't hold up. It really doesn't. And you don't get to tell different stories. Yeah. Whereas again, in Dartmoor, when you're outside, it's one piece of music. When you go inside, the whole thing becomes way more small and intimate. And then when you go up on the top floor, it becomes way more tragic. It's the tale of this woman who's about to get a bullet between her eyes, and who's is just a terrible human being, but a tragic human being. So it was like it was a requiem for her when you go up on that top floor. Yeah. So anyway, so back to you to answer your question. So once that's been mapped out, once we've agreed, okay, this sounds like this sounds like that, and the top floor sounds like this. We like this. Then the work begins of creating loops. And some of them are 3 minutes, some of them are 3 minutes and 30, depends on how big the area is and how I will sit and I will either play the game or I will just look at a video looping and just listen to the music over and over and over again until I am sure that I'm not going to get tired of one thing that sticks out too much. Like,
that's interesting process.
Well, but that's the thing, though. I mean, I've played enough games that, if it's a 1 minute loop and there's that big blast of brass that comes in every time and you goes, bang, get hit by that every minute, it becomes distracting. You don't want that. So I try, and I'm sure that's the same thing for every other game composer. You don't want to annoy the player. It's not the Niels Bye Nielsen show. It's not, it's not a concert of my music. I'm there to just try and create an atmosphere that's hopefully cool to be in while you play it.
Yeah, and I think you've done an incredible job. You've definitely achieved
agreed.
that.
Thank you.
There's been elements of the production of Hitman that the online community's been critical of. Such as certain gameplay bugs that have never been resolved and things like that. But there are elements of production, such as the soundtrack, which are just, I can't even think of the right word off the top of my head, but just very memorable, incredible work. And so...
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we commend you for the work that you've done. It's as I said earlier in the podcast, the trilogy wouldn't be the same without it.
That's really nice. Before the show started, we had a little conversation about my interaction with the online community and with anything technological besides from my studio equipment, and it is nil, except for that one case where I had to voice an opinion, set a few things straight. Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't go on there. So that was also eye-opening for me. When I did step into that environment, all of a sudden I realized, holy cow, people are actually listening. I don't think that had dawned upon me. Really? Honestly, it wasn't a part of my everyday life. I mean, I work and then I deliver stuff, and I work till I'm happy with it, and then you deliver it, and then you realize, I wish I had done something even better. But then that's it. Then you move on. You don't. I mean, I'm aware of the fact that millions of people are playing Hitman, and thus also aware of the fact that millions of people are obviously listening to the music subconsciously. But that people were actually listening, that honestly had not really occurred.
There are places you could go where people would ask for your autograph. I guarantee. Like the music is
nutty.
So good.
I mean,
nutty.
There's little, especially like having played through the game a lot as we have, and there's just little moments in the game that you definitely like. There's little snippets of soundtrack that you'll always remember hearing for the first time. Like for me, it's when you go to assassinate Vanya Shah in the train yard in Mumbai, and there's that beautiful angelic. I don't know if you remember the piece. I'm sure you remember the piece I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Like that's one of my favorite little memories I have of a key soundtrack, like beautiful piece of the soundtrack, kind of.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Actually, this is great research, man. Keep going. Tell me something else that worked. But also
I'll give you my favorite.
Stuff that didn't work. Yeah, please do.
My favorite is in Miami, in the car garages. This really I don't know what the instrument is. It sounds almost like a guitar or something. It's really sort of like, it's when he's sort of infiltrating the pit crew areas. That music there particularly is really intense. I love that so much. Yeah. Cool. I listen to that on loop. It gets my adrenaline going.
There's actually a YouTube channel that has uploaded all the loops for each map. And
have you seen that?
Yeah, have you seen those?
Yes, now I have seen that.
Yeah. So they've obviously taken them from the game files and uploaded it as like one complete soundtrack of each map. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a shitload of work. I did see that. I also saw that they had, so I guess AIO leaves unused music in there as well, because I saw there were a few things where they were just, what the hell is this? And it's true. Yeah. There was like the dream sequence at the. I'm hoping I'm not spoiling anybody.
Oh no.
Anybody who hasn't played the game, okay? At the end of Hitman 3, before the bonus level, if you will, there's that dream sequence, and there was some music there. It was very different to begin with. So some of that music, I guess, is just floating about in the code somewhere. So they'd yank that too.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's a lot of stuff in the code that I hasn't really used, and the fans will go and mine that out of there and get as much as they can. Actually, that leads on to an interesting question. When you're did you mix the official soundtrack? Was that you? Because
yes.
I wonder, how do you choose? Because there's obviously so much more music in the game, and lots of it's reactive, sort of custom music. How do you choose what to put in those soundtracks? Because I feel like there's a few things which are only available like bootleg YouTube copies, but how do you choose?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good question. I can't even answer that except for, you just pick something. You start out wanting everything to be on there, then you realize, oh shit, I wrote more than 4 hours worth of music. I'm not going to put that on the soundtrack. So you start breaking it down. I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to tell the story of 47's journey through Hitman 3. So you kill darlings left and right. You just have to. It's like, oh, but I would. No, shut up. Just do this. And then you take all these layers and you try to make it sound like it's a cohesive piece of music that's coherent, that goes through some valleys and peaks. And I also composed a few things, because since I'm not crossfading, I'm actually opening up the files, and so I would add a few things every once in a while to justify a dynamic jump or a crescendo. To sort of justify that, I would write a little, maybe a string run or a brass swell or a few things here and there. The same with the techno in Berlin. There's something in that techno that does not exist in any of the tracks that you can rip from the game, simply because I wanted to for that I wrote 15 minutes of techno, and I wrote 3 tracks that is sort of put into a jukebox with some smaller tracks in between where the kick isn't there. It's sort of more floaty in nature. And then I wanted the DJ moment in there also, where I actually get the 47 theme in there and the techno. So in order to justify all those things becoming one track, I had to write a little extra something to throw in there.
I'm gonna go listen to that afterwards.
You do that.
Wasn't there an Australian DJ involved with
I think that was the fake guy who wasn't actually involved. I think that was the guy who was like pretending to be involved. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
that was. I'm not gonna.
I've put my foot in
Yeah,
it there.
that was.
We can cut that out, Tim.
I'll cut it out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to cut it out. Honestly, it was a weird situation. Also, something that I had not experienced before. Maybe I have. I just didn't know about it. My girlfriend accidentally happened upon some YouTube videos or Twitter or whatever the hell, and made me aware of this. And yes, it turned out somebody was Australian. I think you're right.
Yeah, we'll track him down.
So it's allegedly Australian.
Allegedly, yeah. He might not have.
Give ICA a call.
But yes.
You know.
I think it was it Dynamedian or something? They did some little tracks or some extra tracks or something like that.
Not for Hitman 3, but for Hitman 2. They did quite a bit of music actually for Hitman 2. Anything that was like in the garages or the public space in Miami where you go through the different booths that sell various racing equipment or whatever. There's just like lounge music and various things. Yeah, Dynamedia did that, and this person who shall remain unnamed also took credit for that. I guess that's how he started his career as Hitman composer. Yeah,
people are weird.
It's pretty incredible that people think they can get away with that sort of thing.
But the thing is, he did.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
He or she, I should say, got away with it for years. And part of it is because I'm not online.
You're not there to defend yourself in your work. Yeah.
Right, or even be aware that it's happening. So it's just I had no idea.
Yeah,
absolutely no idea.
And as an artist, that must be really frustrating. To have someone claim your work.
For me, this was a novelty because I'd never experienced before.
Oh, okay, yeah.
At least not to my knowledge. So it was just really bizarre.
Yeah.
Of course, I wanted to set the record straight, and as I then entered the sphere of social media, and I realized how this one thing had turned into a million other stories of all sorts of craziness where people were speculating about one thing and the other.
Yeah.
I had to step in and set the record straight. But other than that, I was just sort of hanging back and watching this really bizarre thing on spool. And we'd just been through the election in America with Russian interference and
a few more important things going on.
Right, but this was such an interesting parallel story to that, because all of a sudden I understood how these things happen.
Yeah.
It's because one person does not speak up, but then a million other people concoct a million different theories, and some person goes, well, this is the way it is. Before you know it, everybody jumps on that bandwagon, because why not? These people are not stupid people. A lot of them are very intelligent beings. But if there's just one person claiming one thing, why would that not be true? So, I'm not blaming anybody.
No, because you'd never actually think that people would make something like that up.
No. In my world, no, you wouldn't. But of course, I'm not naive, so I get that. That's not how the works.
So going back to your composition, like with the composition process, is the music that you compose primarily electronic, or do you actually get, such as for example, a live orchestra to come in and perform the more operatic orchestral pieces? Like, I know that it must be quite hard now with COVID, but how do you work in that sense?
In terms of Hitman, it is synthetic from beginning to end. There's not a live musician to be found anywhere. Actually, I play some guitar on some of it, but most of it is just all synthetic.
Even the choir pieces.
Even the choir.
That's all artificial.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Huh. That's incredible technology. Wow.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of pieces like Isle of Scale, particularly all fake. Like the male vocals
Fake.
when you escape with a constant. That's one of my favorite pieces. And also the vocals in the Hitman 3 menu theme.
Yes.
And some of the
it's all
chung
fake.
ching.
That's some amazing technology.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I feel like we're learning a secret.
Sounds so real.
No, it's all fake. It's, I mean, these days, sometimes I do a lot of commercials also, and commercials they have massive budgets, and they will take the time to go and spend a day recording 30 seconds of music for a commercial. But because there's 4 hours of music in a Hitman game, the sheer expense of that would just be ridiculous. Plus the time it would take. I was working on this up until day of release.
Wow.
So there's just no time because things are in constant flux. I mean, there's a story that's fleshed out and the various locations have been determined, but things are always changing. And I always have to change. The sound people always have to change. You get an email one morning saying, "Oh, by the way, here's an example. Miami was originally populated by 80s synthwave music."
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
It's a bit different.
Yeah.
From beginning to end, it was interactive synthwave.
Huh.
Until one day where changes was made, and we're not going to go that route, by the way. Sorry. So that's like 40 minutes of music just out the window, start over.
Yeah, wow.
So that was one of those up at 8.
Oh, man.
In bed at 4, up at 8, bed at 4, get 4 hours of sleep at night in order to make that deadline. Same thing actually with Columbia. That was Hitman 2 was tough. Man. That was more of, at one point it was sort of like a blaxploitation soundtrack, which was really cool. It had brass and all sorts of things. That was deemed not appropriate after a little while, and things changed, and all of a sudden people were wearing gas masks, and it was a lot darker. So that didn't work anymore. So rewrites.
Yeah.
What did you ask me? Sorry, before I went down this tangent.
Oh, just whether you compose electronically or if you actually get real.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it's all fake still.
Yeah, it's all fake.
What about in Santa Fortuna, in the sort of fishing town, that guitar? Is that you performing that on a guitar?
That is me performing.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's also fake. it's me performing it with a fake guitar, believe it or not.
Wow.
Why would I do that? It's a good question. That's because I was actually somewhere where I couldn't record a guitar or have one with me. So I literally did that in a living room.
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
So I have in Denmark as well as here, I have identical setups. So no matter where I am, and it's these days technology is brilliant. It's portable. You rent a car that's a station wagon. You can put all this shit in the back, and you can drive to the south of France if you want to and sit and work there. It's really awesome. So that thing was done under those circumstances. But yes, you're right. Technology is brilliant. Some of these. Shout out to IO. 8DIO did the choirs. Did a brilliant choir library for that. Wow. But for those who care, East West, I used their orchestral stuff, some Spitfire, various things. I don't know if that's something people care about, but
I'm sure there'll be people that do.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of variety of music in the game. Actually, like, was it a challenge? I guess you've had experience with commercials, which are all over the place in like themes and genres of music. But was it a challenge because, like, take for example Hitman 2, is that there's like 8 different countries and all sorts of completely different sounds. Like in Miami, it's all electronic and technological sounding, and then you go to Colombia and it's all this sort of relaxed guitar music and creepy, like imposing
cartel music.
So like, is it a challenge going between those genres?
I want to add, by the way, the soundtrack of when you go into them. Tim and I were discussing this yesterday as we were preparing questions.
Yeah.
The contrast between the peaceful melodic guitar of relaxed sound of the guitar in the village, and then when you go into the mansion.
That was terrifying.
Even though there's all these vibrant colours and everything in the mansion grounds, you just know that the soundtrack really sets the underlying scene of if 47 gets caught here, he's probably going to get tortured or something. Like, so sinister.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome! That's cool. That was actually the guitar music was something Christian Elverdam. Elverdam, I guess.
Elverdam, yeah.
English speaking, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
He was the game director on Hitman 1 and is now studio creative director. Has a lot of input on Hitman also. And he actually came up with the idea of let's tell the sad tale of these poor locals who are being oppressed by the evil people in the mansion on the hill. So that's why that guitar is in there. I think it just works really well. I'm so happy to hear you guys also enjoyed it. It was not supposed to be peaceful. It was supposed to be lamenting and sorrowful.
Oh, okay.
There's a piece in that where it's like, I guess peaceful might not be the right word. It is definitely more somber, I think. Yeah. It has a sort of like,
now, I guess. Yeah. That's good.
There's a sort of like, yeah, you do feel the sadness in it, but then you compare it to when you walk into that mansion. It's like the contrast is so
powerful,
shocking. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of diverted the discussion away from Tim's question. Is it a challenge to come up with so many, like a creative challenge to come up with so many varying pieces for each map?
Yes, it is. But it's also incredibly fun, and I love to learn and I love to research. So, for instance, the underground techno in the Germany map, I'd never written underground techno before, nor did I know what underground techno was. I had no idea. So I went to Thank you. Well, I went to YouTube and I just searched on underground techno, and I found this guy. I wish I could remember his name because I would give a shout out to him too. He has something called Der Sein Institut, which is basically him sitting in his little studio, telling people very passionately what makes underground German techno. So I spent 4 days learning about techno rumble and verb kicks and all these different things that make that genre what's specific to that genre. Because honestly, to me, anything 4 on the floor was probably techno, but I now realize that that's just not the case. And on top of that, one of the sound designers at IO, his name is Sebastian Pohl. He happens to be German and big into underground techno. So I knew I had some gates I needed to pass because he was he was not going to let this shit fly if it wasn't sounding legit.
What's the genre he's passionate about?
Oh, exactly.
Has to get the
just dive in and just live in that world for a week. So that's what it is. I did nothing but German underground techno for a week, and I wrote those 15 minutes, and I learned a ton about that. Of course, I've forgotten everything about it now. But the same thing, that I have to write tangos, and Matthias, the game director's girlfriend, is a semi-professional tango dancer.
Oh wow!
So there was another. I knew, if I can't fool him, then I haven't done a good enough job.
Yeah.
So back on YouTube, listen to a lot of Astor Piazzolla and stuff like that. Go, all right, it's time to write some tangos. But yes, it's challenging, but it's gratifying, and it's hella fun.
Yeah. How did you going back to the main theme from Hitman 1? And the briefing music, those 2 tracks in particular now are very nostalgic for a lot of us that still play the games. Okay. What was it like writing those pieces? Because they were obviously they must have been very early on in your work with the trilogy, and also they're very iconic pieces because they're not just background music in a map. They're kind of, you've got the main theme, which is defining the tone and mood of the entire game, and you've also got the briefing music, which kind of helps to kind of mold the world of Agent 47 and what he does and what he stands for and what he's all about. So what was that process like?
Wow, well, that's back in 2015. What was the process like? That was for some of the first things I wrote. And that was part of the suite of music that I wrote. There was an original theme, actually, that was supposed to be a 47 theme, that plays ever so briefly when you exfiltrate. Once you're done and he takes off in the chopper from the lawn of in Paris, for instance, you get this ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
That was actually a very, very long piece of music, which was supposed to be the main theme. But then I wrote that menu music, which was the next thing I did.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, "Man, maybe this is more what it should be."
That kind of that really has that spy thriller vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that whole big orchestrated thing, which I was sort of excited to use, and spread around the game, various places, just is literally just 10 seconds of that whenever the helicopter takes off. That's it.
But
it was
the exfiltration music.
Well, that was something different. Yeah, the exfiltration music started off as I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but since you asked, because that's another interesting story. Christian Elverdam, who was the game director, I had written this exfiltration music, was a long piece of music, did a million things, very exciting. And that thing, the exfiltration music was just literally like 8 bars. It went ba-da, ba-da, ba-da-da, and then it did something else. That was it. There was nothing else. And he was like, wait a minute, stop. Can we just play that thing and nothing else? Just the horns. None of all your big fucking orchestration, all that. Just kill it all. Let's just walk around with just those horns. And we did. I was like, this is not bad. So I took those things and I turned it into the full theme. That's the exfiltration theme. And to give it a little bit of pace, I put pulse bass, which everybody does and works so well every time. Boom, boom, got that thing going. But then you
so that main theme spawned from exfiltration music. That's so cool. That's a
from
real
just
cool
8 bars of just throwaway music, basically. But again, kudos to Christian, going back to collaboration and so on and so forth. It was all his idea. Like that thing, turn that into something 2 minutes long, which I did. And that worked out really well for everybody.
Yeah. And I noticed with after Hitman 1 was released, with new releases like Patient Zero, the DLC campaign, right. Elements of the briefing music had been remixed and stuff like that. Was that you, or was that?
That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Just to do something, something fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the idea. And also another thing, speaking of themes, thematic material, the Hitman 1, I didn't even score the cinematics in that movie. They wanted me to give them these little 1-minute loops so somebody could sit down and just cut something together. So honestly, I haven't even seen these cinematics with music to this date. I haven't. And the story was... While there was a story and I mean, it was well written and I'm sure it was great for fans who followed the franchise, it wasn't integrated into the gameplay in any way, shape, or form. Whereas in Hitman 3, I think we finally gotten to a place where the cinematics matter. It's not you don't hit X immediately to to get to the next lap, the next level, and start playing, because actually it's part of the flow. So I got to also integrate these themes. For instance, the menu theme, the from the menu from the first one is all of a sudden becoming a theme. We gave it to Diana. So if you watch these things and notice it, you'll notice that thing, like the very last thing you see in Hitman 3, where he's out in the cabin, he's talking to Diana, it's a very positive version of that thing. Wow. So, and it's spread out various places in the game and cinematics, because all of a sudden the whole thing was tied into a more cinematic experience. So that was a really fun thing to be able to do, but none of that was planned.
Yeah, well, I think, because I think personally, I love the soundtrack of Hitman 3 probably the most out of all 3 entries. And
cool.
And I'm also a huge fan of the story, so I think that makes sense. That probably explains why I've leaned more towards your work in Hitman 3, because it reflects the characters in the story more and things like that. So, yeah, and I hadn't even picked up on that, so that's really interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, there are. We started.
Oh. No, sorry,
no. Tim, go on. Go on.
The exfiltration music in Chung Ching specifically, I got almost emotional at that music, because it felt like literally an end of an era, and you completely nailed that feeling. Like,
thank you.
Walking up to the train station, you clearly, the music felt quite interweaved with this emotional beats of the story, especially in Hitman 3. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. That's important to me, because when you go into the reactor and you get this semi-interactive cinematic, it's a cinematic. Press A every once in a while. But, it is the last time you hear the exfiltration theme. ba-da, ba-da-da. It starts like that, and it keeps in the background. You get bits and pieces of it. And then the moment he hits a race, you never hear that theme again.
Wow.
It's gone, because that is who he was. All gone. So now we get this new theme, which on the soundtrack is called the purpose theme, because all of a sudden the dude has somewhere to go. Like in Dubai, when you're walking around outside and you climb into the vent, that is all the purpose theme, with a few hints of the exfiltration theme, because at this point he's driven. He knows what he's about to do. He's about to take down ICA and go live a happy life with the Grey. That's it, right? So his life looks different. His world looks different. But then, as things go terribly wrong, that thing comes back, because now ICA is lurking in the background again, trying to kill him. But once you hit delete, you never hear that again. So once you go out and the exfiltration music, it's all built on this simple minor arpeggio, ba, da, 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 that is being twisted and turned a million different ways. But thank you. That's great, because that was one of those moments that we were wondering whether or not works. When you
nailed it.
Oh, great. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Let me ask you another question then. Another thing we were also really hoping work was the exfiltration from Dartmoor, because everybody is expecting at that point to get the same old shit. We always get the exfiltration theme, but lo and behold, something else happened. So did that work for you guys?
Yeah, definitely.
It did?
Yeah.
The gunshots and then the music just seeming a lot more. Let me try and remember it. Yeah, it was more chaotic almost. It felt like a bit out of left field. It felt a lot different to me. What do you think?
But did it feel uneasy? It was like,
yes,
wait a minute,
absolutely. Uneasy is the right word. I was trying to think of the good word.
It definitely generated a lot of uncertainty of like, what's going on?
Okay.
What's going to happen?
Cool.
Yeah.
It felt like the sort of because it's sort of a structure to the ICA. Like the Hitman 47 is quite a structured, this is how things will go, and he can plan out the events type character. And it feels like, so if you go back to Paris's exfiltration music, it's like, yes, we've successfully done the mission, everything's wrapped up, perfect. This one's just like, nah, things are going bad. Things are going really bad out the window, definitely uneasy. Yeah,
absolutely. That's a good point, Tim. Like, I feel like in Hitman 1, for example, the missions were their own little package, and as you say, the exfiltration music like really does wrap up the level nicely. Whereas by Hitman 3, the story was much more established, and and it's all coming to a head, and there was definitely a lot more, the prominence of the overarching story. That arc was definitely connecting the maps together much more, and it's amazing that Niels and the audio engineers did such a good job of like using the soundtrack to help link all those maps together in that point of the trilogy versus, say, Hitman 1 and perhaps Hitman 2 a little bit as well.
It's something we were really specifically Jonas it was a big thing for him. He wanted this to feel like a more cohesive story that have peaks and valleys. And one thing, here's a bit of trivia, the sound of a train is used quite a bit. For instance, when at Dartmoor you've killed Alexa
Carlo,
Alexa, all right, you've whacked her, if that's what you choose to do. All of a sudden things are weird. You go outside, the wind, there's this weird melody that's the Constance theme that's carried on the wind, and the closer you get to the gate, you get this underneath it. So I used it there, but the sound designers used it also in many places, to sort of foreshadowing the idea of the very last level. And it's kind of cool. And I don't think it was thought as this, but it was a concept Jonas came up with. The idea of 47 is literally just a train. Dude's on rails, man. He can't make a left or right. He can only go this. Wherever the rails are laid by the ICA, he goes. Or Gray tells him to go. It doesn't matter. He's a train. But in the end, that train is finally derailed, and he can, see fit to move anywhere he wants geographically without being a slave to the rails. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing.
Yeah,
it's subtle.
Really cool. Yeah,
cool symbology behind it all. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So kudos to Jonas.
One more thing, while we're talking about good pieces of music, which most of it is, the train, the moment you open the door on the train, that music particularly, it's almost like a plot twist, or it just feels like, because you don't really feel like you're on a train at the start. You almost expect yourself to be in the Institute or something in Romania. That's kind of what you'd expect.
Totally,
but then you open the door, it's like,
yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
That's good cool. Piece. Yeah, that was the point also. Yeah, so the music in the train is I made it like lab science music. Yeah, that was the idea, to exactly do what you thought you were. Exactly. Great. That's awesome. That's really awesome. Very cool.
So I think do we have one last question, Tim?
Yeah. Here's a good question, actually. Do you have a favorite like level music or piece of music from the game? And it's probably hard to choose between feel like your children or something, but do you have a favorite?
Your many children.
Yeah.
Must be 20 of them.
Yeah, I really like Dartmoor. I just really enjoy that. Both from a musical standpoint, because I think it tells a story in a cool way, because I enjoy writing that kind of music. I enjoy writing orchestral music, and the level is just cool. Hilda was the environment artist, and I just think she did such a brilliant job, man. So that whole thing gels in a great way. Mumbai, I think, really worked out well. There's that's each section has flavors of India. Vanya's doing voices over there was really, really fun. That was a good time. And oh boy, let's see, what else? Actually, the Chinese level from the third game was also really fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, man, I forgot the name of it.
It's all right.
They have some internal names they use for levels that are all based on various animals.
I can't remember the name.
Yeah, it was called Rat.
Oh, was it?
Probably not politically correct, but it was. So that's just what I know them as. Dartmoor was Bulldog. I just happen to remember Dartmoor. So yeah, Rat was great too, because it told a story, and it wasn't orchestral. It was purely synthetic, with a lot of synth sounds I got to fuck around with. Which was good fun. So, and the choir.
Were you inspired by like soundtracks from like Blade Runner and films, or?
I didn't listen to any of them, but obviously the sound of that Blade Runner lead is just, I mean, you cannot escape it. That is
iconic sound.
I mean, you can't.
No.
And like Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Who did? Yeah. I mean, you just can't not use that, because it's so clearly a tribute to.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't. There wasn't a lot of it. It's mainly in the fly in the beginning, where you get your little briefing. Where I used that. I don't think I actually used. Yeah, maybe actually when you walk the walkways and you get the choir, which I sort of glitched a little bit. There's every once in a while you get just a brief Blade Runner lead going in there. But other than that, no, I didn't. I didn't. But then again, I've listened to so much music in my life that you draw upon such a massive catalog of things, and then you try to be a little bit original. If that all
feels quite original, don't worry about that.
Oh, good. Well, that's good. Yeah. But I mean, it's impossible. So many people doing so many different things. I mean, finding your own voice, you get lost because you are asked to do certain things. We want something that sounds like this. Not for Hitman though, to a great extent, which is great. But in the other worlds I work in, like commercials all day. We need something that sounds like this, but we don't want to pay for it. So could you do that?
Have you ever had to do the thing where it's like, make the Star Wars theme, but do it just like change which notes are in which order or whatever? You know when they do that?
No,
that's hilarious.
That I would do. Then I would say that I'm not the right composer. But actually, I did a Gillette. When Rogue One came out, I did this Gillette commercial campaign where they had tons of Rogue One footage. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. And in the beginning, I had done something very, very John Williams-esque. I was like, this is great. I'm like, this sounds old school, man. I don't know what this is. We need something, more Hans Zimmer-esque.
Really? John Williams? They don't like John Williams? That's crazy.
They're like, wait a minute, this sounds all wrong. What is this old music? That was really a weird. That was a weird scenario. So I ended up finding a spot somewhere in between.
Nice.
Are you hoping that having worked on Hitman that it'll open up more doors within the video game industry, or
well, if I wasn't an idiot and promoted myself, I'm sure it could. But I think I'm still just obscure. I think many people think I'm just the IO in-house composer.
Yeah,
in Copenhagen and gets paid an hourly wage. So good question. I think I need to dip my toe into the pool of the greater world outside.
It'd be great to hear maybe more games.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I have done tons of games. So this is not new to me.
Well, I know Jesper. I'm sure you're already aware that Jesper went on to compose for Assassin's Creed, which is one of the biggest titles in the industry. So, I think with Hitman at your helm, you've got a lot of good possibilities, and obviously IO of working on 007, and that would be. I mean, obviously you can't say, but like that would be an amazing project to at least be involved in some respect. Yeah. So
I agree. That would be great.
Yeah.
let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what happens. So it must be a composer's dream to work on like a Bond film or a Bond game. Or something.
Well, it's just, man, I just keep the shoes just get bigger and bigger. That's the thing you have to fill. I mean, now all of a sudden, if you wade into that world, it's 25 almost now.
Yeah.
Movies of brilliant composers.
Yeah.
Done wonderful things.
Have you heard of John Barry? He was one of the composers that wrote a lot of the music.
Hey, joke. I can't tell if you're kidding or not.
Okay,
but then I remember that you're only 30.
Yeah. So obviously you know who he is.
Yes, I've heard of John Barry. Yes, he's written a few delightful tunes in his day. Yeah. John Barry's huge, man. He's brilliant.
Yeah, he did all the old Sean Connery films, didn't he? Or some of them.
Sure did. Yeah, he did. He wrote the theme. Oh, I guess there's some actually debate whether he wrote the theme or he co-wrote the James Bond.
Oh, the actual James Bond theme. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some various theories out there, but regardless, it's a cool theme, and it's. I mean, David Arnold, Thomas Newman, most recently, and now Hans Zimmer in October. Eric Serra. I mean, so many great composers have done 007 justice over the years. So if one were to end on a project like that, that's freaking intimidating.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, see how you go. IO, are you listening? Well, that brings an end to our discussion with Niels, the composer of World of Assassination trilogy. It's been a very, very special episode. We've had some very insightful and interesting discussion regarding what the composing process was like for crafting and producing the soundtrack to Hitman World of Assassination trilogy. So, Niels, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Anytime.
It's been an absolute pleasure to hear what the process was like for you, both personally and professionally. And just on behalf of all the fans, we'd just like to thank you for all the work you've done over the years. As I said at the beginning of the podcast, without you, this trilogy would have been very different. And dare I say, it probably wouldn't have been anywhere near as good. I think component to any piece of art in the entertainment industry, as I said before, music is so important. It's the backbone of the art piece itself, and I think your work has just been integral in making the trilogy what it is. So thanks so much for coming on. And I mean that with all sincerity as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everybody out there who's been listening, even though I haven't been aware that you've been listening. It's just flattering beyond, a little intimidating, but just really heartwarming. So thanks to everybody who's ever written me an email and written nice things, because it's what keeps us going. It's got to be fun to do the work, and it is, but it's also incredibly important that it's things that are appreciated, and that's how we know it's not crap, because we can't you can't be the judge of this yourself. Somebody else has to tell you. So thanks for having me, guys. It's really been a treat.
All right, thank you.
No problem, and all the best with your future work.
Thanks.
Look forward to
see you again sometime.
See you, Niels. Sure. See you.
All right,
thank you.
Bye.
So this episode's question was, which piece of music is your favourite from the World of Assassination trilogy and why?
Yeah. I'll go first. So we're just going to have two different answers today. First, we have Shadow Eagle 976's answer. They say, my favorite is probably the data core extraction music from the bank. I missed it on my first few playthroughs, but as soon as I heard it, I thought, damn, how could I have missed this? It's so sinister and tense sounding that it really gives stealing the data core a dramatic and memorable flair. Yeah, I love that music. It only happens when you carry the data core itself. You can't be in a briefcase, and it doesn't play when you just get the hard drives from the characters.
Yeah, right.
When you carry the data core itself, it has its own special extraction music, and it's really, really good. It feels like you've completed a heist.
Yeah, right. I actually can't remember it, to be honest. I remember obviously the music when you open the vault. I mean, it's kind of like, this classic, mysterious piece of this almost kind of like fantasy-like in what's behind the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't remember the data core one. So it's funny how some pieces stick out for some people and not for others.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
That one, that stuck out to me a lot. Yeah. You might have to go listen to that one again.
I'll have to go. Yeah, I'll have to play the bank again and listen to it. But yeah, I mean, as we were saying earlier in the podcast, it's insane the amount of work that they put into the soundtrack.
I know.
And 99% of people aren't even going to notice these little nuances that are implemented within the soundtrack. But just
I think it's good because the game's about replayability. The more things you try, the more music you can hear as well. So it doesn't get stale, as Niels was talking about earlier. Yeah. And and the soundtrack really helps to create these really key moments, through the game, throughout the gameplay. So obviously having a unique little snippet of a few bars of music to, highlight a key objective, such as getting the data core in the bank. It just goes to show how passionate Niels and the audio team were about that aspect of production. Absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks for your answer, Shadow Eagle.
Yeah.
And this week, this episode, I'm going to read out one from Laffy Taffy. They stated, definitely the class music in Bangkok or the stereo in Hokkaido. Great song and brings back nostalgia. It has the iconic moment in Hitman with Jordan Cross and the mission stories. So, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're referring to the main song of Jordan Cross's band, are they?
The Jordan Cross's band has, I think, 2 or 3 songs they recorded specifically for the band, like the class band. They're supposed to be in
the class,
diegetic band music from the game. We didn't actually ask Niels if that was if he did the class music, but but whoever did it did a great job.
Yeah.
It actually feels like some sort of pop band. So
yeah, it does. Yeah. And the fact that they did actually create different renditions of it for the actual mission story, where you are the sound technician and mixing it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
So cool.
I definitely agree with you, Laffy. That was a really interesting. I haven't really seen a fake band that you can interact with in a game before, I think. So
no,
quite unique.
Neither. Yeah, very unique. Yeah.
Well, that brings us to a close for this episode of Hitman Hideout podcast. Thanks for everyone for sticking around with us and listening up to now. I think this will be quite a special episode. So looking forward to hearing what you think about it. Leave your, if you're listening on YouTube, you can leave your feedback in the comments, or if you're listening on Spotify or podcast apps, then you can come to YouTube and leave your comments or tweet at us
and please make sure to leave the video a like if you're on YouTube, or leave us a like or a 5-star rating on the podcast apps, because it really does help promote our podcast, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also just bearing in mind, if you do like the podcast enough to help support our hosting costs, you can become an All Things Hitman channel member. Only a few Australian dollars a month, and obviously it goes a long way to help keep the podcast hosted. So,
yeah, really appreciate
yeah,
that. Thank you to everyone that does.
That is continuing to do it,
Yeah.
despite the fact that we haven't released an episode in quite some time. So
But we'll be back soon with another one, so
yeah,
don't worry.
yeah. All right. Well, I guess signing off. Till next time.
Thank you. Yes, signing off.